All right, welcome back here to the Gill Connections Podcast. So humbled you would join us again as we get closer to 400. Now, here's the caveat: 400 original content every Monday, long form, uplift and honor and a coach, talking about their journey, how they got into coaching, how they got into the mentors that have helped them along the way, lessons learned, things like that. But actually, we have published, I think we're at 1,000 overall episodes with our Gill 1918 projects that run Tuesday through Sunday, our bonus episode. So just a lot going on. And I'm a stats nerd, so I see all the stats from everything. I'm just so humbled you guys would be here. So if this is your first time being here, thanks for being here. Really appreciate that, the trust, and buckle in because it's a fun ride. I can't wait to get into today's guest and his journey. If this is your repeated time, your 100 time, 200 time, heck, your 1,000 time. I know there's some super fans out there that have listened to everyone. From the bottom of my heart, just so grateful that you'd continue to trust us and have us pouring into you in your coaching journey with these amazing men and women. So let's get to it. Help me welcome from Kalamazoo Central High School, the wise, the wonderful Mr. Tyler Germain. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Wow, wise and wonderful. I don't know if I've ever been called both those things in the same sentence, but I appreciate you for having me, man. I've been listening for a while, and I'm excited to talk.
Tyler, you're a good example, and this is a good like PSA to talk to people. So this is a little bit like Pokemon, meaning I want to catch them all. I want every coach from middle school to the pros, everything in between. I want them on the show. I only get to do 52 of these a year, so it sometimes takes me a while to obviously run through the list. And you'd reached out. We had talked about having you on the show probably at least a year ago, and it was like, Tyler, you're on the list. I promise you. And I'm sure it felt a little disheartening when it's like months go by, almost a year, probably over a year goes by. So I appreciate your patience and appreciate everybody else's patience that's on that list. You're on that list. Trust me. I just, I don't get to do this full time, unfortunately, because I got to actually sell some stuff every once in a while. So, Tyler, I appreciate
Sure.
your patience, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody else is hearing this and is on the list, he will get a hold of you. It might take a little while, but
That's
I thought maybe it was like, well, that's probably never gonna happen. But nope, you got a hold of me, so I appreciate that.
that's what I worry the most about is that people don't think I'm blowing smoke up their butt. They're like, yeah, yeah, right. I've had several people, it's been 2 years before they actually get on the show. And what I like about it is the timing is always right, meaning we had one, Logan Sharp, who from Ashland University now, he had reached out. We had talked back when he was at American International, called AIC. And I said, hey, you're on the list. And it took 2 years to get down on that list. And thank God it took that 2 years because his journey from when we originally spoke to the actual interview was so much better, so much more enriching, so much more valuable to listeners. And I think the same is going to be true here, Tyler, that when we first reached out, talked to each other a year and a half ago, your journey is even more enriched now. And so I'm excited to jump into that.
Yeah, and I'm glad too, because when you first got a hold of me, it was like kind of the beginning of the season, and that's as you know, that's a very busy time of year, and so I'm glad that season's wrapped up, and I get to talk about this season too, because this was a really fun one for
Oh,
me
nice.
personally.
Good. Well, let's give the people what they're here for, Tyler. They want to know more about you. So let's hop back into our Wayback Machine and figure out
Hmm.
where in the world does track and field even start for you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the obvious answer, or the short answer, I guess, is that it really starts for me when I'm a sophomore in high school. I hadn't done track and field in middle school. I didn't run when I was a freshman, but I had a couple of English teachers who also happened to be the track coaches at our school, and I played football and I played basketball, and I've been over 6 feet since I was like 14 years old, which
Wow.
is not always the most like coordinated gift when you're 6 feet at 14. But I was a reasonably athletic kid who played a couple different sports, and I happened to have these guys as teachers, and like so many other coaches who are also teachers, and like I have done, they saw the kid and they were like, "Hey, have you ever thought about giving track and field a try?" And I hadn't really thought about it. And I don't really know why, because as I've gotten older and reflected a little bit more, I just finished up my 22nd year of coaching. I've thought about like and especially as I've like delved into like a lot of the sprint side of things, the speed side of things, I think there was actually a moment when I realized that sprinting was its own unique thing. And I think it was weird enough. I think it was watching the '96 Olympics
Hmm.
as a kid. And obviously, I don't think I realized it then, but I remember watching the '96 Olympics, and that was Michael Johnson's big year,
Yeah,
right?
Big
In
Daddy
Atlanta, in,
200.
in
Yeah.
Atlanta. And I remember like going out in the backyard, and running as fast as I could. But I could tell that they were like really picking their knees up high.
Hmm.
I was like, so I'm like 10 in the yard and I'm like running as fast as I can and trying to get my knees up and like turn them over. And my dad's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I'm sprinting." And he's like, all right, man, yeah, knock yourself out. And then like that whole summer, like we would have kids in the neighborhood that, we would hang out with and stuff. And we would set up races in the backyard and we would run rounds and stuff like that. So
Right.
I think actually in some sense, I think that watching the '96 Olympics kind of planted the seed, but it didn't
Right.
really come to fruition. And I don't know why I didn't go out for track in middle school or in ninth grade. It
Yeah.
took somebody to invite me to the team. Um, and so anyway, I was a sophomore in high school, and my coach, Mike Nesbitt from Bay City Western, was the head coach, and he said, you're a football player, you're a basketball player. This will help you like kind of stay in shape for those other sports, and maybe we'll just try the high jump and the long jump, and and he double crossed me, and I love him. I still talk to him till this day. But he sold it as we were going to try the high jump and the long jump, and then before I knew it, I was running the 300-meter hurdles. So uh, and that one, he really sprung that one on me, man, because we were we were on the bus to our first like dual meet, and we got out. I'm eating a couple sandwiches on the bus, trying to make sure I'm good to go, and then we get off the bus, and he's like, "Hey, Jermaine, you're running the 300-meter hurdles today." I'm like, "Oh, what? Okay, I've never gone over a hurdle before, but sure,
Wow.
coach, whatever you need." So, I uh I did high jump and I did long jump and I ran the 300 hurdles for the very first time, and I got to learn what unique kind of pain that race can be, especially if you happen to have eaten a couple roast beef sandwiches on the bus on the way to
Oh.
the track meet. So, um, but I mean, yeah, that's really where it all began. And like, I I I don't know if it was like an instant, like I really fell in love with it right away, but I liked the people that I was
Hmm.
around. I really respected my coaches, and it seemed like the other people on the team were really enjoyed it. And so I was like, it was enough to keep me curious and keep me
Hmm.
interested. And then it turned out that I was not so great at the high jump and the long jump, and I was decent at the hurdles, and I became a full-time hurdler, um, and the rest is kind of gone from there.
So that's amazing. I love that. And I think I really want to stress the importance of, you were a track guy trapped in a football and basketball body. It's so like I like to like play the movies in my head. I can see you watching Michael Johnson set the 200-meter record and immediately going outside like, okay, this is how he did it. I'll do it. Like that's so
Yeah, yeah,
like, when we see kids now at our ages, it's like at our ages now when we see kids, it's like, oh, that's so cute. Like that's awesome because running is a natural thing. We don't have to learn. We sometimes have to
yeah.
unlearn some habits. We all know how to run instinctually. It's a human just trait. So I just love that. I really want to stress the importance of your coaches asking you to come out. I wonder how many kids, we always like to play the game of like how many kids would have been a 200-meter state champion or a high jump state champion, but they never went out for track. And I wonder how many of those kids were asked. Now I know our high school coaches do an amazing job. I always scoff at the idea of when they say high school coaches can't coach in college because they don't know how to recruit. And I'm like, dude, that's all they do. They roam the
It's like
hallways recruiting
constantly.
all the time. If you and I'm hearing, and
It's
I know of high school teams that have 100, 150, 200 kids. That ain't happening because kids just like to come out and run the 300 hurdles. They're being asked, they're being recruited. So I just love that. And shout out to Nesbitt and those guys that said, hey, you know what, Tyler? Why don't you come out? Let's see what happens. Let's have some fun with it. And look what it blossomed. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I've you're absolutely right. I mean, we have to recruit as high school coaches because kids grow up playing little league, or they grow up playing soccer at the little community soccer field or basketball or
Hmm.
whatever. Kids for the most part don't really grow up running track,
Right.
So there's some convincing sometimes that has to happen. And
Hmm.
I haven't necessarily had anybody who became a state champion, but because, who had never done track before, but I've definitely had kids who came out for the team and were really, really good at something that they had no idea that they were
Right.
going to be good at, and who
Right.
became state qualifiers,
Yeah.
and it's like, and I had one kid tell me like, man, I never even thought about doing this before. And he
Oh,
was just like, he was a 6'2" football player,
that's
basketball
awesome.
player. And I just remember watching him run around the basketball court like a gazelle and being like, this kid's got to run track.
That's awesome.
Um, and he ended up being a pretty good high jumper and long jumper for us.
Where are that's funny. Where are you growing up? You mentioned Bay City, but we know you're
Yeah.
in Michigan now. Bay City could be California too. Where are you growing up? Where's this happening?
Yeah, it's Bay City, Michigan.
Okay.
It's I don't know, hour and 45 minutes or so north of Detroit on the east side of
Oh,
the state.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I was born and raised there, went to high school there. I went to Saginaw Valley State University,
Oh
which
yeah.
is
Well, don't get ahead of
about
me. We'll get there. We'll get there. So did you grow up a
okay,
big
yeah.
I grew up in Alabama, so I'm not an NFL fan at all because we didn't have an NFL team. Did you go big Detroit Lions fan though, I assume?
Yeah, I suffered that pain
Hey, they're
growing
good
up,
now though,
right?
right? Like they're doing good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're all right now. And my kids are spoiled because they just recently got into watching the NFL like a few years ago, and the
Mhm.
Lions are good. And I'm like, and
I
when
never
they had a heartbreaking playoff loss
hmm.
2 years ago, I think, in the NFC Championship game, and my kids were just like torn up about it. And I'm like,
Oh.
you don't even understand
Let me
what a
tell you
gift it
pain.
is to watch them in the NFC Championship game. Like that's not even a thing.
I
So
remember, like I said, I never paid attention to the NFL, but I do remember, but I do love college football. That is kind of my jam. And I remember when Detroit got Matthew Stafford and was it Calvin Johnson, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
like this is where Detroit turns it around because I knew they had not been that good and could never still get it done. And I was like, oh, maybe this is just one of those
couldn't do
cursed
it.
franchises, man.
I mean, when you look at some of the names of players that have played there over the years, you
Big,
wonder how I know,
yeah,
and yet.
and yet,
So
dot dot dot. Well, Tyler, you started out as a high jumper and long jumper, and those are great events, but then you really piqued my interest because hurdles are my favorite thing in the entire world. My first email address ever was Hurdle Love for crying out loud. My license plate says Hurdle. I mean, I'm a tried and
yeah,
true hurdles fan. Love seeing Jacoby Tharp set the world record for crying out loud. That was crazy,
amazing.
unbelievable, unbelievable. And so love the hurdle. So first of all, how did that first 300 hurdles race go? That is I don't know what's
I
tougher,
don't,
trying to do the 110
yeah,
hurdles for the first time ever or 300 because both of them they're unique events in that sense that they're both really really hard.
yeah. Actually, yeah. So I actually don't really remember the race itself. I just remember how I felt afterwards and thinking like, you son of a gun, you really set me up for this one. But um, yeah, I don't know. And to your point, I actually think like when we're now when I'm like trying kids out in the hurdles for the first time, I don't ever spring it on them like that, but like a
Good.
lot of times we'll have them run the 300s before they end up running the 110s
Yeah.
because there's more. I mean, obviously it's a physically more taxing race, right?
Hmm.
But the steps don't have to be perfect.
Right.
It's much more forgiving in terms of like your technique through the
Right.
hurdle, and all that kind of stuff. And they're a little lower, right? So,
Right.
uh, despite the fact that they often feel a lot like I felt at the end of that first race, they at least see that they can get over the hurdles,
Yeah.
right? Whereas, you throw a kid in the 110s or the hundreds for the first time, and they look so bunched together to a kid who's never run the hurdles before, and like
Hmm.
a lot of times it's pretty ugly. So,
Hmm.
yeah, we tend to break kids in with the 300s,
Hmm.
and again, I don't know if that means it's easier, but they're at least more spread out and not so high.
More forgiving is probably the right word because easier is
For
a very
sure,
context word, but it's more forgiving. But you still eventually, if you want to be good, you got to learn how to hurdle and then, of course, be a 300
for
meter
sure.
runner. So you said you remember that feeling. Did you become a hurdler after that? Did you drop the high jump and long jump and go straight to the hurdles?
Yeah, it took a little while before the high jump and long jump went away completely, but
Hmm.
yeah, by the time I was a junior, I wasn't jumping anymore. I was
Oh.
just hurdling, and then I was running on like our 4x2 and our 4x4 relays. And yeah, and I ran both. I ran the 110s and the 300s, and then I was, pretty much those were my four events by the time I was a senior, like
Hmm.
100, 300, 4x2, 4x4.
Hmm.
And like I was a very, very average high school athlete. I
Hmm.
never got an opportunity to run at a state finals. I was competitive in our area, and I was all conference and things like that, but like I never made it to that like really elite level, but
Hmm.
I did like hurdling. I did really like hurdling, and I'd really like being on the team. And so, I think that a lot of times people feel like if you don't achieve a certain time or a certain, level of success, that, it wasn't worth it or whatever. But
Oh, it's
like, I
ridiculous.
don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
W
Like if you're measuring your success only by that, you're gonna be disappointed a lot.
we're so we're so spoiled sometimes in track and field that we've lost the point of that winning is hard. And what I mean by
Hmm.
that, by being spoiled, is every track meet we go to, there's what, 18, 19, 20 events for the boys, 18, 19, 20 events for the girls. So there's 18, 19 different winners every meet we go to. If there's team titles, there's always, we see a ton of winners every time at track meets. And so we think like, oh, well, if you're not winning, what are you doing? It's like, bro, winning is hard, hard.
Yeah, and there's an awful lot more people that didn't win.
Bro, so we're getting close to 400 interviews here on the podcast, and I haven't counted up, but I can guarantee you the vast majority were not Olympians, state champions, college All-Americans, So yeah, your worth is definitely not whether you got first, a PR, made it to All-State, whatever. Did you participate, have fun, and respect others, and instill, and now as we talk about coaches, and instill the love of track and field into others? Man, you're a winner, bro. You're absolutely a winner. Now,
Yeah, for
based
sure.
on Tyler, based on your social media, you're a little bit of a cerebral guy. You like to really kind of dive into. I've seen different posts on different training modalities, relays, things like that. I'm curious though, as 16, 17, 18-year-old Tyler, as you kind of started getting into the hurdles, did you dive into like learning the hurdles? Like, did you go watch YouTube videos? Did you go to the library and read books? Anything like that? Or were you just like, all right, man, see hurdle, do hurdle?
Yeah, no, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I think it, it's possible that if I was growing up in this age when
Mm,
all that information is
sure.
so readily available, but like
Yeah. What
YouTube
year did
was
you graduate high school?
'04.
Oh, so yeah, I said
Yeah,
YouTube.
so
YouTube didn't even start till
yeah.
'06 and really didn't become what it is until
Well,
10. So yeah, you didn't have any of that.
yeah. So none of that was really available. And I mean,
No cell
even
phones, really?
yeah, I didn't
Yeah,
I didn't
that's
get a
true.
I didn't get a cell phone until after I graduated high school. So it was pretty
Yeah, that's
much
true.
like I just listened to my coaches and try to do
Yeah,
what they told me to do the best I could do it. But and obviously you get to see other kids hurdle, and I
right.
got to watch some other really I one time raced against Ken Ferguson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how that happened. I didn't belong in the same heat. Um, we went to an invitational,
Who
and
won that? Hmm.
yeah, who do you think? It wasn't me. Uh, and man, and he ended up he holds the state record still in the state of Michigan. He went sub 36 in high school.
Oh,
and then obviously, went to USC and
Hmm.
married to Allison Felix, isn't he? I think.
And I just saw him at the Penn Relays this year running a Masters 4x4. And I was like, didn't you have enough beating yourself up, man? What do you do? And ran
Yeah.
fast, by the way. I was like, dude, you kept at it.
So I got to watch, I got to see like great hurdlers compete. I got to get a really good look at what good hurdle technique looks like from the back, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, so that's how you do
Uh,
it.
yeah, I think he probably had a glass of water before I finished the race. Um, but man, yeah, so it was pretty much like see what other people are doing. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
see that kid's pretty good, and I noticed this, and then just like
Right.
trying to listen to my coaches. But yeah, there was no YouTube or Instagram Reels or,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. It's that's so weird to me. You said before I graduated in 96. I'm sorry, 94. So 10 years before you. '04 seems like I was coaching at Mississippi State. '04 doesn't seem like all that long ago. Like it was, oh, that was yesterday. But now describe, thinking about no YouTube, no cell phones, no social media, etc. It's like, oh my God, '04 was the dark ages, and that was just 20
yeah,
plus, 22 years ago. That's kind of crazy, actually.
yeah,
These kids don't know what they got, how lucky they are today
I
with
know, I
everything they
know.
have in front of them. And that also can be a curse at the same time. I get that as
I was
well.
gonna say the same thing.
How so you mentioned Coach Nesbitt. How was your relationship with your high school coaches? But maybe that changed after he threw you in the 300 hurdles with no warning.
Uh, I mean, my relationship with both of them, Mike Nesbitt, and then the other one is a guy named Rich Searing, and I had both of them as teachers. And I wrote about this in an article that I did last, I don't know, last year. I was feeling really reflective about the fact that I had been coaching for 20 years and what the sport has given me
Hmm.
and kind of what I still have left in the tank. And that gave me an opportunity to think about those guys
That's right.
uh, on purpose. And in high school, speaking of 2004, like we didn't have like the language surrounding like mental health that we have now.
Mm.
But like looking back, I was definitely like a depressed teenager,
Mm.
like um I I didn't have a lot of friends at the high school that I went to. I had friends, that went to other high schools nearby, and some of those are still my best friends to this day. But like, I just didn't have a lot of friends at the school that I went to, and I was, yeah, I don't know. Looking back, like I was definitely like I put my head down in class and go to sleep. So hopefully everybody will leave me alone type
Wow.
thing. And I
Yeah.
wonder if that was part of why they asked me,
Mm.
because um because I wonder if they saw a kid who's like tall, pretty athletic, but like, man, he seems like he's really struggling. Maybe this will be a
Mm.
positive thing for him. And I think every high school coach has probably done something like that too.
Right.
Like, hey,
Right.
what if you gave this a try? Might be a good thing for you. Be around people, be outside. Um, so there was some of that, and I really think like I consider those two mentors to this day. And Rich has since moved to Florida,
Mm.
so I don't get the chance to catch up with him too often, but I still get to see Mike because he's still coaching at Bay City Western. I still get to see Mike
Wow.
a few times a year,
Oh.
and his son is now coaching with him, which is hilarious because his son was like 2 years old running around at track meets when I was competing. Uh, and so I still get a chance to talk to him. And when we won a state championship at Kalamazoo Central 2 years ago in 2024,
Right.
um, and he was the first one to come over and give me a hug and
Bro.
congratulate me. So I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it. But um,
Well,
yeah, love
I
those guys. Love those guys.
I remember that article you wrote because my whole passion is uplifting and honoring coaches, and so I really like when coaches uplift each other. And I remember that article. I think I seem to remember that I retweeted and said, "Man, more of this, please." Like I
Hmm.
usually here's what's funny, Tyler. Usually, as the host, I get to do whatever I want, so I usually assign homework to guests because a guest will talk about their high school coach or somebody that really an English teacher, anybody that poured into them, and they'll say something like, I haven't spoken to them in 20 years or whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, here's your homework. Go find them and just tell them thank
Yeah.
you. Like literally. So I love that you had like done that with the article and highly encourage anybody listening. You know how you feel like you're in a thankless job? Well, then do something about it. Go thank the people that poured into you. So I really, really love that, Tyler. I really, I do remember that article. Two, I think it's really important. I appreciate you, your openness and authenticity, sharing about how you grew up, and I think more kids are like that. And maybe, and I think I worry. I don't know how to say this. I was about to say I worry less about the kid like you that showed it versus the kids who portray like everything is going right. But that's not the right way to say that because I do worry about kids like you. But I think there's a lot of kids who portray that they
No,
got
I know what you
everything
mean.
going on and everything's great and I have so many friends and inside they're not doing it. I can't imagine, you graduated 4X, I graduated 94. I can't imagine growing up right now in 2026, 2027. We talked about, we alluded to the curse of, social media and cell phones and things like that. There's just so much being thrown at these kids, going on with these kids. We know comparison is the thief of joy. Well, that's all this world is right now on social and cell phones and things like that. Boy, I don't know that I could survive today. And
No, I
I
think
feel
it's
like I
got to
barely
be really
survived back in
hard.
the 90s. Yeah. Yeah. So I
Yeah, I
appreciate
think
you
it's got to be
sharing
hard.
that, Tyler. Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, let's stay with 18-year-old Tyler. This is one of my favorite questions to ask because, we know, spoiler alert, you become a coach, a track coach, but at 18, maybe you didn't even think about where was coaching at your mind as an 18-year-old?
I think by the time I was graduating high school, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher and I knew that I wanted to be a coach.
Is that right?
Yeah, despite the fact that, like I said, my like how I moved through high school wasn't the best. The teachers that I had, I was very fortunate to have teachers and coaches who I really respected and who like you said, really like I felt like poured into me. And particularly, so I'm an English teacher at
Mm.
our high school. Like every English teacher I had in high school was amazing. And then, I actually just had the opportunity to speak with a buddy about my high school football coach, who sadly passed away recently. But
Mm.
um, he was a huge mentor and just a really positive person in my life and my track coaches. And so like it seemed like all the best people I knew outside my family, all the best adults I knew outside my family were teachers and coaches.
Right.
So um and I you know I think some part of me too is like the subject of English always came pretty easy to me. So like I was like, oh, I'll just do this. I'll be so I and at the time I ended up going to Saginaw Valley, like I
Hmm.
said earlier, and that they had a really good teacher preparation program. So, um, yeah, by the time I graduated high school, I'd already decided I was going to go to Saginaw Valley.
Wow.
I was going to become a teacher. I was going to do English, and I have a PE minor that I've never once used. I've never taught PE. Um, uh, and then I wanted to coach. Now, naively at that age, there are people who do this, but at that age, I thought. I'm going to coach three sports. I'm going to coach football. I'm going to coach basketball. I'm going to coach track. And, coaching, it turns out, takes up a lot of time. And now I can't even imagine trying to do that. I coached freshman basketball for 1 year in addition to coaching track, and never again. And I can't even imagine going from one sport into the next because I'd already be at football,
Yeah.
conditioning and weightlifting stuff like right now.
24/7.
Like,
Yeah. Track
yeah.
is
So
24/7, 365. Multiple sports, of course. I always wonder, I need to, you made me think of something. I need to check up to see if this is still true. So when I graduated, I went to a small town, Alabama high school. So I think my graduating class was 125. So probably 700 people in the class. Um, Town of maybe 10,000, 12,000 people, so real small. So I grew up where and played football and ran track. All of our football coaches were all of our other sport coaches. Like I distinctly remember our offensive line coach was a tennis coach, our quarterbacks coach was a track coach, our DB's coach was the girls basketball. I mean, just there was no other if there was an extra coach, like meaning they didn't coach football, they were an assistant at best. And I moved from there, little town, Alabama, to Chicago, a little bit bigger. And after a year of school, wanted to help out the local high school, and called the track coach, Russ Martin. I'll never forget him. He gave me my first coaching job, so I've always been indebted to Coach Martin. And so we're talking, and I asked him, I was like, "So what position do you coach in football?" And
Hmm.
you would think I asked him, "What's the three-headed alien over your shoulder talking about?" He's like, what do you mean? I coach track and field." And I was like, "Oh yeah, 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 I know, but you coach on the football staff, like, what do you?" He's like, "I don't." And it was funny because he was like the stereotypical distance guy. I mean, weighed a buck 30,
Sure.
6'2". I mean, he looked all of like a cross
Yeah.
country coach. And here I am asking him what position in football. And he's like, "I don't coach football, man. I coach cross country and track." And I was like, and I told him, I was like, "Man, really?" It's like, "All my football coaches coached everything." He goes, "Oh no, our wrestling coach, he doesn't coach football, and our basketball It blew my mind, Tyler, that it wasn't the football. I thought that was universal around the country. It now makes me think I need to go back and ask, like, the now football coach of my high school, is that still true? Like, was that just a 90s thing? And now it's because you made a good point. It's like, man, it's so we're each sport now is so involved with so many things. I'm like, I wonder if that's still true in small town Alabama. Are they still coaching everything, or has that evolved, or anything? I don't know. That's curious. I'm curious.
Yeah, I bet there's a mix. I mean, Mike
Yeah.
was the cross country coach and the track coach, but Rich was also my JV football coach.
Yeah.
And now that I'm thinking about it, like some of the other guys that helped out with our team when I was in high school were also my football coaches. And
Mm-hmm.
we have on our staff at Kalamazoo Central, I have a football coach on my staff. I have a volleyball coach on
Hmm.
my staff.
Interesting.
So I mean. Yeah, the multi-sport thing, but I hear you though, because I've
Yeah.
heard other people say that same thing where it's like, oh yeah, our whole football staff is basically our whole track staff, and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
huh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
how about that?
Yeah. How about that? That actually, I almost said I wish that were more true, but be careful what you wish for. I'm still just flabbergasted that we have this football versus track attitude in this country. It's not, I don't know if it's prevalent or not. It's enough that it still worries me that we still have that conversation. I still just can't believe that's a common thought. It's crazy. I saw a tweet. You'll
Especially
appreciate this.
since
Go, 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 go.
especially since like in a high school environment, those two sports, those two programs should help each other, right?
Absolutely.
Like the football team can help the track team can help the football team, and other, I don't know that there's a lot of other sports that are like that, right? Like, does the baseball team really help the football team?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Right. Good
Maybe
point.
with throwing, or maybe like wrestling, but like I'm not so sure that the golf team really helps the basketball team,
Good point.
But I think that football and track is a perfect match. So I don't really
That's a great
understand
point.
that competition thing either.
I saw a tweet the other day. You'll appreciate that. It was a little facetious, but I thought it was funny. It was like, football coach says, "Oh yeah, you should play other sports." Then football coach also says, "But hey, here's our mandatory practices during the spring." It's like, wait a minute, dude.
I
That's
know.
it's like trying to have your cake and eat it too.
It's
It's like,
Yeah, you can't. I've worked with both. I mean, I've worked in places where the football coach really wanted the football players to like be in the weight room in the spring and not doing
mm,
it. And then I've fortunately worked in many more places where the football coach and I worked very close together to be
yeah,
like, all right, these are the kids we share,
mm,
let's and encourage kids to do multiple sports. And that's how I am too. Like
mm-hmm.
I'm a big multi-sport believer. I think just like the specialization that kids do and where they play one
Oh,
sport all year round, I don't think it's good for them physically. I don't think
no,
it's good for them even mentally,
mentally,
really.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
And so I always appreciate when other coaches uh, who I work with share that belief
Yeah.
because it means that they're not going to try to like, these are my kids,
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
thing.
that's a problem, right? This air quotes here, ownership of athletes. It's like, bro, you're the
Right.
coach. You don't own these kids, man. Come on now.
Hmm.
Well, I like to be a little Pollyannish and think that the majority of our football coaches and track coaches are actually working together. I know that's not everywhere,
I
but
think so.
I like to be a little Pollyannish there. Okay, Tyler. So I love this. I don't think this is common as a 17, 18-year-old senior. I'm going to be an English teacher. Check. You did that. I'm going to be a track coach. Check. That's not very, I mean, God bless, 18-year-olds don't know what underwear they want to wear tomorrow. And you kind of knew your career path and went forward. I love that. So you said you went to Saginaw Valley State, the Cardinals, right?
That's right.
Nice.
That's right.
I like knowing mascots of that's kind of my nerddom. If you ever need
Yeah,
a trivia night and it's that mascots of, I
I'll
might be
call you
your,
up.
yeah, I might be your guy for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll get like the most common one wrong for some reason. But okay, so you go to Saginaw Valley State. Did you run track there?
I didn't. And
Yeah.
actually, so I started coaching. So Mike Nesbitt gave me my first coaching opportunity as well. So,
Wow.
yeah, I know. And I thought about, so I had thought very briefly because, okay, so I don't want this to turn into like necessarily like a biography of Mike Nesbitt, but at the time, his dad was the head coach at Saginaw Valley.
Oh, okay.
And his dad had been an All-American at Central Michigan, and Mike had run at Saginaw Valley, and Mike's wife ran at Saginaw Valley, and
Wow.
now fast forward, both of Mike's children, I think his son Brendan was an All-American on a
I was gonna say
relay.
that
His
Nesbitt
daughter,
name sounds so familiar. When you said Mike, I feel like I've maybe met Mike because that name was really
you
familiar.
may have,
Yeah.
and his daughter Sydney ran at Grand Valley, and his his son Brendan is married to, here's a name you might know, Shine Williamson, the heptathlete, American heptathlete. She didn't make the team, but she made the
From
trials. She was,
Saginaw.
yeah.
I
So
do.
that's
I
his.
saw her at Colorado State Pueblo at Nationals and was like, "Holy crap, this kid!" Like she was like she was
She's a
first and like
four-time D2 national champion.
yeah, second place was like and second place was really good by the way, but there was a gap. She was oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Holy
So that's
cow.
Mike's daughter-in-law. So it's like it's a track family. So I had thought briefly because I had met Mike's dad because Mike's dad would come and help out at our track meets and because like during, Michigan winters, they had it worked out where like Mike's dad would let us come over to Saginaw and use the indoor
Yeah.
track a couple times a week. I thought very briefly about walking on
Hmm.
because I loved it.
Yeah.
Um, and it was different back then, right? You could just like show up and say, "Hey, I want to
Hmm.
walk on and try out for the team." Uh, and then I remember be like getting to campus in the fall, and starting my classes and feeling kind of like overwhelmed, like this is different, and seeing the track team like already working out, and I was like, "Oh no, that's not going to be for me." Uh,
I'm
I
already
that's gonna be
behind.
that's gonna be too much for me. And then
Yeah.
I got a phone call a little bit later. I guess it must have been getting close to springtime, but Mike called me and said, "Hey, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to come and kind of just help us out a little bit because uh, Josh Wilson, who had coached me in the hurdles, he had moved away, and they didn't have anybody to coach the hurdles, and so he knew I was still living in town and going to school locally. He's like, "Hey, would you be willing to help us out?" And I was like, "Sure." So I started. Mike gave me my first chance to coach, and I started out just volunteering a couple
Dude.
days a week. At age 18, I turned
Yeah.
19 in my first season, and I'm coaching kids that were my teammates the year
Same age,
before.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you
But
hold on? Okay, pause there for a second. First of all, I truly believe the superpower of a track and field coach is they see something in someone else before they can see it in themselves. Mike already saw, like, hey man, you might be a track guy. Why don't you come out for track before you could even think about like I'm a track guy. And now he kind of sees like maybe you're a coach before you could, even though you'd started thinking about you're going to be a coach, but this is early, man. This is amazing. So
yeah,
I just love that. What a great example of that. Now, what I'm curious about, this is interesting to me because I have this thought on the college side. Like I believe, and I truly believe this, like almost to the point, like I think it should be a rule. If you when you finish your undergrad at a college state, Saginaw Valley State, I don't think you should be allowed to GA or even be a full-time coach that very next year. Like I just like to me, it's I always use the example of like, on Friday you're with your boys playing your Xbox and PlayStation because you're on the team, and then on Monday you're coach. Something tells me that
yeah.
that transition doesn't go very well. How did you handle? I mean, I remember my first coaching job and remember thinking I was a little separate. I was so 3 years from high school, so I was maybe No, I was 20. So I was 20 when I was the head high school coach in Chicago. So I was 2 years older than some of these guys. That's the same age essentially.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, okay, I'm Coach Cunningham now. I have to act like that. I had no clue what that meant, but I knew I had to act like that. That I wasn't Mike to these kids. I was Coach Cunningham, and made some mistakes because of that. How did you, that first time you proverbially, whether you did or did not, got the whistle and you're the coach and you're supposed to be talking to these kids who you were just boys with them the year before. You were on the team. You were trying to help kids qualify for conference and things like that. How did you and them? How did you handle that?
I don't know if I handled it well. I mean, I kind of had the same thing, whereas like, I'm in a position of, where I have to be in
Mm-hmm.
charge now, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Um, I think, you know, I didn't, there weren't any like major issues, but I do think like that first year especially, some of the guys that I coached, and I coached both, it was very like, boys and girls together type program, but some of the guys especially were like, why do I got to listen to you?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
The only thing I think that was maybe in my favor is that, um, and I don't even remember like a lot of the names of the kids that were on the team, but I know that like we weren't we weren't just like our team wasn't just like overflowing with talented hurdlers. And so like none of them were like that great.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't that far removed from it, so I could still hurdle. I could still like, demonstrate. So I think I had just a little bit of credibility because they had seen me, and they knew that I was at least decent.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I think, at times a little bit of that, like, I don't even listen to you.
Yeah.
The girls were awesome.
Hmm.
And I think, I don't know if some of that was like they were trying to impress me because they also saw that I was not that much older than them.
Sure,
But
sure, sure.
like,
And now you're college Tyler, not you were
right,
senior Tyler. That's
exactly.
a big deal. College Tyler
Oh
though.
yeah, okay, Coach Germain. No, but so it was there was definitely um I don't coach at all now like I did starting out. I didn't know what the heck I was
That's
doing.
that's a
And
good sign.
I think it's also possible that, because I was only doing it a couple days a week, that it was kind of a nice
Mm,
transition, right? A nice sort of
it's a good point.
introduction to like, because by really like my second or third year, most of the kids that I had run with and hurdled with had graduated or
Hmm.
whatever, and so it didn't take long for, even though I was still young, for it to move away from like, wait, I literally ran with you, and now
Hmm.
you're my coach, to just like, okay, yeah, he's a little young, but like,
Hmm.
well, that there was enough distance, I guess, there.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
but I definitely
remember?
thought that I was going to be in charge, and I figured out that I was not. That
Do
wasn't
you
who I, that's not who I am.
do you
This like,
remember? Do you remember an instance or an example in that first year to 2 years where I'm gonna say something happened, some memory that you have of where you're like, oh yeah, I thought I wanted to be a coach. Now I know I want to be a coach. Like I'm gonna stall a little bit while you think about that. Like I remember my senior year, football. They let the seniors come back and do some coaching during the spring game, and I remember just a simple cue. We were doing some kind of high knees over bags or something, and I made a simple little cue, a reminder to a kid on the team, and I just played. I mean, I was still a senior in high school for crying out loud. And they changed, and it became better. And I remember thinking, "Wow, like I did that." Like a little bit too much ego there, but I was like, I did that. Like
sure,
because I saw that and said something, they got better. And but that they got better part was a real big, like, oh my God, I need should be a coach. Like, this was awesome. That was really cool. Like, I almost got more enjoyment with that kid getting better from something I said than when I got better and did something. Did you ever have a moment in that first year or two where you're like, oh yeah, this solidifies it. I want to be Coach Germain.
I don't know if it was that early necessarily, the first year or two. And by the second year, a paid position had opened up, and so then I was really like there pretty much every day, other than if I had like an evening class or something like that. But I think I I guess it would have been, hmm, I don't know, maybe my third year or so. We had a girl who was pretty good, and she was a hurdler, and I was working with her a lot, and she qualified for state. She ran, she had ran a big PR at our regional meet, and she qualified for the state finals. And I've had so many moments like that since then, but I remember her like crossing the finish line, and I don't even think she won, but I think she was second, and in Michigan, top two finishers at regionals automatically move on. And her just like the look on her face, and her just jumping up and down and giving me a big hug, and it was like, yeah, that was so uh just just a profound moment, right?
That's
Of like
awesome.
she worked her butt off. We were working on stuff, every single day, trying to get her there. We felt like she could do it. And then she went and had exactly the race that she needed to have on
That's
exactly the day that she needed to have it. And yeah, like that moment has stuck with me forever. And I think
that's cool.
that probably is, you know, I think that probably was the first moment like that where I was like, wow, this
That's
is really
cool.
something. And then when I moved away from Bay City, and got my first teaching job elsewhere, like the first thing I did was I need to figure out who the track coach is. So like by then I knew for sure. Like I can't even imagine doing anything else
Right.
in
Part
the
of your
spring
identity. Mm-hmm.
besides coaching track, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's been true everywhere I've gone as a teacher. It's like, all right, well, this is where I'm teaching. Who's the track coach? Okay, let me go talk to them, see if there's any way that I can help out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like we don't have a track coach, or sometimes it's, this guy's been here for, 25 years or whatever. But like, I mean, I've done everything from volunteer 2 days a week to, you know, girls head coach, boys head coach. I'm head coach of both at Kalamazoo Central to, assistant, unpaid assistant, you name it,
Yeah.
whatever. I like being around the sport. So hopefully I get to still do this for a long time.
Now, Tyler, we almost named the podcast the Gill Tangent Podcast because I'm kind of a tangent guy. So you do not see this next question coming up. Over your
All
left
right.
shoulder appears to be some kind of like a frame with a CD, like a song type of thing. Is that? Tell me more about that. There must be something special to you. You have it framed up in your house.
Yeah, so well, along with uh, being an athlete in high school, I mentioned that most of my friends didn't go to the same school as me.
Right.
Um, I so my best friend, who I've known since I was in third grade, um, when we were about, I don't know, 15, 16 years old, he got a guitar, and he was going to learn how to play the guitar. And I was like, well, if my best friend's learning how to play guitar, I guess I better learn how to play something too. So I got a bass. I got a bass guitar, and I learned how to play the bass. And we both kind of like learned together. And throughout high school, I played in like different garage bands with my friends. And this is a whole, dude, I could talk about this forever. So we got to be careful,
Okay. Okay.
because um the because the DIY sort of like punk scene
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's a really scrappy scene. And
Yeah.
like thinking back about how did we put on shows that we like got people to find out about and like pay money to come to, and like
Wow.
hire a sound guy, and like how did we do that when we were like 16 years old?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the thing behind me, so I played in bands with my buddies all through high school and all through college. And I've had an opportunity to travel around a little bit, and
Wow.
I think I've performed in 15 or 16 different states around the country. And
Dude.
so the thing behind me is a record, well, it's a CD, but from a band that I was in high school or in college, towards the end of college, called I Am the Branch. And we were sort of kind of like a chill indie rock band with some guys that I met in college who also became good friends. And that was our full length that we recorded. And
Bro.
actually, it came out July 9th of, I guess it would have been probably 2012,
Dude.
somewhere in there.
That's
Anyway, that
cool.
so my mom got that poster and
Yeah.
the case and the CD. She took it to like a framing shop, and she got it all done
That's
up.
dude, that's badass, bro. Honestly, that's really cool. Now,
Yeah, it was super fun.
you mentioned kind of punk and laid back grungy type. typically I see those kind of characters with long hair, and if you're not watching on YouTube, he barely has more hair than I do. He's a crop top kind of guy like I am. You're a number two guard all the way through. You might be a number
Yeah,
three. Did you have long hair?
I've cycled. I did have long hair in high school.
Nice.
And then I had like a real like sort of trend. I did the emo bangs thing, for a
Oh,
while.
did you really?
I've done like the faux hawk, kind of thing. I've done a
Dude.
lot of different stuff. This is and then I had the buzz cut for a long time, and then this is the first time I've had one in a long time. But I was God, it was getting so hot at the end of track season. I was like, this has got to go. So I did. I got the two guard out, and this is probably, I guess, about a month ago now. I got the two guard out, and yeah, there we go. And so now I'm just gonna keep it short for a while. But yeah, all
That's
different hairstyles.
funny, dude. I had the just normal, part on the left or whatever. And then
Sure.
when I had an Air Force ROTC scholarship to go to college up in Chicago, and that was pretty much required to buzz cut it. And I realized how much easier life was when you just buzzed your
Yeah.
hair. And I have been buzzing it ever since. When I met
Yeah,
my
it's a
now
lot
wife,
easier.
I remember when I met my now wife, she jokes about this all the time. When it seemed like we were going to become serious, I was like, "Oh my God, I have a girlfriend now. You can cut my hair." Because I was doing it myself. I was trying to, get the
Yeah.
back. I was sure it was all crooked and everything. And she has cut my hair every week for now 19 years. So
I
it's
do
just so
my
much
own.
easier, bro.
I know. I do my own, but I do like once I've got it, I do call my wife up and ask her to like just line up,
Yeah, the
the
back. Yeah,
neckline
that's the
for
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the
Yeah.
hardest. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. Well, there's your hair tips on the Gill Connections
that's
podcast.
right.
Again, I told you in the pre-recording, I thought, after maybe 50 interviews, I'd have, pretty much every story be the same, and maybe we'd have already talked about all topics, maybe by 300 or something like that. We've never talked hairstyle, so I appreciate that. But that is way cool, man. That memory in the back, dude, because there's so few
Oh,
people
it's a
who have
blast.
actually, a, been in a band. I've never been in a band. Two, actually gone through the stages and recorded an album. That's a big deal. So I think that's way cool, man. That's really neat. Like I said, I knew it had to be something. I thought it was gonna be like a wedding song or something. That story's way cooler than that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
No, I mean yeah, it was a huge part of my life, and
That's so
I don't
cool.
play with other people anymore, but I still play, and I'm just so
Can,
grateful for that experience because how many like 18, 19-year olds get to like drive around the country in a
yeah.
van with their friends
Yeah,
like,
you said you
and then
played like 15 states. Yeah, you guys did a tour.
people
Yeah.
showed up.
Yeah,
People showed up
right. Yeah. Not to empties,
really?
right?
I'm in like I'm in freaking northern Georgia, and there's people coming to see us play.
That's
Like, that's
so
wild.
cool. Now, forgive my naivety. I never did any instrument. Maybe a small regret of mine, actually. But you mentioned you played the bass, and you said now you kind of play. But can you play the bass? Like I can see someone strumming a regular guitar, and can you do that with a bass? I thought the bass, like you had to be part of like an ensemble, a band.
Yeah, I'll just sort of like noodle
Okay,
and
okay,
come up with a little, oh, play this little part. This is kind of fun. Let me
yeah, yeah, yeah.
tinker around with that.
Huh.
But I mean I play the guitar a little bit, but sometimes yeah, I mean I've come up with like ideas for like a whole song where it's like I'm playing the bass, but I can imagine like what everything else is
Yeah.
happening around me sort of thing.
Oh, that's so
So I don't
cool.
know.
That's so cool, bro. That's interesting. Okay, let's get
Thanks.
back on track here. So
Hey.
your freshman, sophomore, junior year, you're coaching there at Bay City. You go from, volunteering a couple days a week, full time, a paid stipend comes open the second year. I love that. You're in for the coach. I love, again, I play these videos in my head when you tell the stories. I love that vision of the young lady crossing the finish line. She qualified for state. She is excited because all the hard work she's put in and you're pumped for. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty, like that's what I like going to track meets for. I honestly, because I'm a little spoiled, meaning I've seen so many good marks, I mean, whether in person or on TV, Usain Bolt's 9.5 and things like that.
Sure.
Even Michael Johnson's 1932 and stuff like that. So now it's a little bit like, if I see a college kid run 9.85, which I think is what they ran to win the Division One finals, that's awesome and that's amazing. but it's the joy of the athlete and coach after that really like, oh, that's cool. Like I'll never get tired of that. Like I love seeing a coach pumped up for their athlete, whether they run 9.8 or 19.8 in the 100. It does not matter to me. It's like, oh, look at that, all the work, all the relationship, everything has boiled to the top and positivity. So I just love that scene that you painted there. That's really cool. Uh, so you go through Saginaw Valley to get your English teaching degree. You do you coach at Bay City the whole time? Because you mentioned you move on. Where does that occur?
Yeah, yeah, I coached at Bay City Western the whole time that I was in school, and actually I graduated at like a weird time of year from college, so I graduated in December
Hmm.
of '09. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I kind of had some time still to fill. Um, I ended up getting hooked up with a long-term sub position in a nearby school district where a woman had had like a double knee replacement and she was going to be out for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of this for the rest of the school year. So I subbed there permanently for from January through June.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was still local. And so I coached at Bay City Western through the, I guess that would be the 2010 season.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds right. Um, and then, then it was trying to find teaching jobs, which in 2004, there's a lot different landscape to find teaching jobs than what it is now.
How so?
You know, uh, they were hard to find.
Uh,
Teachers weren't retiring. Um,
mm, got it.
and in Michigan, I don't know what it was like in other states. Like, well, actually, I do know, at least to some degree, other states were hurting. Michigan was not hurting for teachers at all. If anything, there were
Interesting.
too many because Saginaw and Central and Michigan State and Eastern all had like really thriving
Mm,
teacher education programs, and so they're just
mm-hmm.
churning out teachers. And it
Right.
was kind of like known amongst like people that I went to school with, like you kind of got to be willing to move to find a job or to take a job because there's just not a lot of jobs available. And I probably applied for 150 teaching jobs, and I got one interview. And I knew
Wow.
like I know
All
I
inside
I
of Michigan?
always Michigan and Illinois, and I think
Wow.
even a few maybe like in Indiana.
Holy cow.
But yeah, and I always felt like, and maybe this was naivety too, but I did always feel like if I could just get an interview and sit down with somebody that I would be able to like make a case for myself. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're coming out of college at that time and I don't have any teaching experience and my resume looks just like 150, I mean, you were literally
Right.
applying for jobs and there'd be 200 applicants, and on paper it doesn't. Where now, where I teach, it's like we've had times where we couldn't fill a position, where we started the year without a with like short a math teacher, and it's like, so it was a very different
Hmm.
landscape anyway. So I was applying for jobs all over.
Do you think, hold
Um,
on, I'm sorry. Do you think part of that issue that we're seeing today, that you're seeing, that you just gave an example of, do you think, and it could be both, right? Usually one thing is not the one thing. Is that because we have more teachers retiring, getting out of the game, and or do we have less kids going to school to become teachers? What do you think?
I I think it's more that second thing.
Is that right?
I do. And I mean, look, nobody goes into teaching because they think that they're going to get rich. But at the same time, in a lot of places across the country, teachers are paid, barely
Yeah.
living
Peanuts. Yeah,
wages.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so like, who would want to, who would do that? Like, and I, uh, mm, anecdotally, Kalamazoo is home to Western Michigan University, and so I've had a couple student teachers, and this the numbers in the teacher education program are so small at Western. So if that's true there, I have to assume it's true other places too, where it's like, oh, you know, we only had 8 teacher candidates this year for high school English, where it's like when I graduated, like there were probably in high school English alone, there were probably damn near 100 of us,
Yeah.
like um so
That
and that was
that
just
seems
at
like a
my
problem.
university.
That,
Yeah, I think it's going to be a
yeah.
problem.
Yeah, it seems like
I
a
think it already is a problem, but I think it's going
yeah.
to be. an even bigger problem because
Usually problems like that.
what's attracting young people to the profession,
Right,
right?
right,
And it's not the salary, it's not the respect of the general public. It's
right,
not like,
right,
you
right,
know,
right.
it's got to be for love of the game.
Yeah,
So
generally problems like that occur today, but you don't see the effects until tomorrow. So yeah, if that's happening today, I'm a little concerned about what 2030 looks like. Uh, do we, everybody talks about class sizes. Well, that's what my simple mind thinks like, oh, well, instead of two teachers teaching 70 kids, or one teacher is going to teach 70 kids, and
yep,
yeah, that's an issue. Okay, we're probably not going to solve that on this podcast.
not right now, no.
So what job did you get then, Mr. One out of 150?
Yeah. So I ended up getting a job at Benton Harbor High School, which is in Michigan. It's in Southwest Michigan. Almost, I mean, in Michigan we do this
Yeah, the mitten.
to
Yeah, yeah,
show.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like all the way down here in the corner.
Right. And
Very
put your
close to,
put your hand back up. Uh, Detroit is over
am I
here, right?
facing the right way?
I don't.
Yeah,
Well, we just know the thumb. That's what I'm going for. So
Detroit's
Detroit's
down
here. Okay.
here-ish.
Okay.
Yep. Bay City's up here.
Got it. Okay. 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 Okay.
Benton Harbor's here, and I'm in
Got it.
Kalamazoo, which is like here.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um,
Okay. Got it. Thanks for the little geography
so there's your
lesson.
geography lesson. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, so I took that job and
Now this sounds like
fresh
the
out of
first
college.
time away from home. I mean, you've done
Yeah,
some
because I
traveling
lived
with the bands and stuff, but this is living. I mean, that's got to be. I mean, I know Michigan. That's a good 3 hours.
yeah, it was. It was almost exactly 3 hours
Hmm.
from my home. So yeah, and it was wild too because like I got that job like I don't know, like I very beginning of August is when I got officially hired. Um and I had to move and school started in like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So
Hmm.
I got the job in August. I went down and looked at apartments. I, was able to sign a lease. Got an apartment. I moved down there and it like felt like I moved in and then started working the next day. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's actually true now, but that's what it felt like for sure. And so that was a very kind of chaotic time and
Yeah.
also a very different environment than what I grew up in. So Benton Harbor is a super high poverty community. I mean, almost entirely African American community. Where I grew up, it was kind of rural, mid Michigan, middle class,
Hmm.
uh, almost entirely white. So it was definitely like a different environment than I was used to. And when you're 18, you think like your experience is sort of universal. And
Mm.
I saw, kind of for the first time, it really opened my eyes to the fact that like, oh, a lot of people actually are moving through the world a whole lot differently than I am.
Right.
Um, and just like the lack of resources at the school and like, a lot of kids, having to, I'm always late to first hour because I got to make sure that my little brother gets to school first before I come to school. And like,
Mm.
it was just it was a very eye-opening experience for me. And I think I'm really glad that I had that because, uh, it sometimes unless it's right in front of your face, you kind of can move through the world and be like, yeah, everything's cool. And
Right.
there was a lot of kids that were having, that were going through a lot of stuff to just make it to school every day.
It's a tough skill to have empathy for others before it happens to you. A lot of times it's easy for us to judge uh, when someone loses their job, why can't you just bootstrap up and get another job? And then when you lose your job, it's like, oh my God, this is terrible. Now I see what they're to be able to have that empathy for someone before it actually affects you is that's a tough skill to have and one that we probably should work on more as a society. But I appreciate that you had that
Yeah.
experience, though. I do appreciate that. So, what was the situation with track? You mentioned when you go to a school, you're like, all right, so who's the
Yep.
track coach? What's going on here? How can I help? Where can I plug
Yep.
in?
Yeah,
What was the situation there at Benton
absolutely.
Harbor?
Yeah. So I went there and I did exactly that. I started asking questions, trying to figure out who the track coach was. There's a guy named Andrew Hurst, and he was at that he was our he probably won't listen to this, but he was already old when I was there, and And I run into him once or twice a year now still, and he's still coaching there.
Nice.
So I mean, I don't know. He's probably been coaching there for 150 years. But and so he was the head coach, and then a guy named Mike Gillespie was helping him out, and a guy named Larry Jackson. And I still run into these guys around, but so yeah, I got connected with those guys, and obviously I was a teacher in the building, so I got to know some of the kids, and I started like I didn't have anything else to do. I was living by myself in a town that I didn't know a lot of people, and I'm a
Right.
brand new teacher. And so when you they prepare you in teacher education program, like if you're going to be a teacher, you need to be like part of the community, you need to
Mm,
attend extracurriculars, you need to do all these things. And so, I was always like, I lived 5 minutes from the school, and like I said, I didn't know anybody or have anybody else. So I was like, yeah, I'll stay at school and get my work done. I'll attend this football game. I'll go to this basketball game.
right.
Um, and so I got to know the kids and I got to know the coaches, and we started working out probably in like January or so, with kids in the hallway. And then um, I was at that time I was just coaching the hurdlers, and
Did they?
hurdling.
Okay, I'm glad you said because I was going to ask that. I assume someone was coaching hurdles before you showed up. How does that? How do you make that work? Like, did someone say, "Okay, fine, you take the hurdles, I'll stay with the sprinters"? How does that mesh?
I, I think they were glad to just have the help because like, there were only, there were only I was the fourth coach,
Mm,
and one guy was very much like he was the throws coach, like that was
hmm
very much like what he was doing, um, and Coach Hurst was, the head coach of the program, but I think he was happy to be able to. And I've found this too. Hurdles are my passion. That's what I feel like I know the most about, and those are the races that I love watching the most. But I don't even coach our hurdlers really that
mm,
closely these days because as the head coach, there's so much that you have to do, and hurdlers need so much time
right,
and attention that I just couldn't do it. So I think probably he was just glad to have somebody who had a little bit of experience there.
that makes
So
sense.
yeah, I was just coaching the hurdlers, and I was only there for a year.
Hmm,
More on that later.
hmm
But I I had two kids in class who were hurdlers,
hmm.
and so I
What
kind of got
what
to know
what
them a
what
little
grade are
bit.
you? What grade are you teaching?
I'm teaching 11th grade.
Oh, okay, all right. All
11th grade.
right.
Yep. So, yeah, so I'm teaching 11th grade. I'm coaching hurdlers. We had w one boy and one girl basically, who were both pretty darn good. The boy ended up being taken fourth at the state finals, and I think he ran like 38 high
Okay,
in 2011,
yeah,
Um, and the girl was a state qualifier. She didn't end up placing, but like, yeah. So I mean, I just kind of fit right in to the best that
nice.
I could, and I didn't have a lot going on. So the best ability is availability. So
I like that.
I was able, yeah, I was able to be there, and that was another part of that too was, or another thing that I hadn't experienced before. Is like, man, I can remember like taking kids home after practice or taking kids home after like getting home late from a track meet and there's nobody there to pick that kid up, and it's like, well, I don't want you walking home. I know where you live. I don't want you walking home a mile at midnight,
Right,
you know. So, and there'd be times where we'd get back from a meet at midnight and I wouldn't get back to my apartment till 1 a.m. because I got four kids that I got
right,
to take to each of their, and drop off
right.
at their places before I can go home.
Isn't
Um,
that isn't that air quotes here illegal?
I don't know.
I, I think I've
uh,
heard, and the reason I ask that because I think it's ridiculous that it's. I Here's what I don't like. I don't like when we make rules based on the 1% who break them and therefore screw over the 99. I understand because I can't remember if it's high school or college, but somewhere I know I've heard of stories of a guy getting in trouble, a coach getting in trouble for giving a ride home. And it's like, well, that's stupid. The kid needed a ride. I understand the
yeah,
rule is because you don't want someone to hire a limo to give special treatment and all these kind of things. but that means the 99 other kids walk home after a track meet at midnight, things like that. So I don't know, man. That just like to me, when you
I don't
tell
know
that
if it's
story, I think 99% of the people hear that story and go, "Oh, well, thank God the coach was there." Like that's thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it. And I'm sure the parents and family appreciate it. And then the 1% is like, well, that's a impermissible benefit. It's like, shut up, dude. Like that's humanity.
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know if it's illegal. I think in time at times I've been places where it was sort of frowned upon, I
Yeah.
guess, like
And I understand that
but
part too. The front why someone would say, "Hey, you shouldn't put yourself in that situation, Tyler." Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right.
I get that as well. But again, that's kind of the 99 for the one type of thing.
But for the most part, I mean, yeah, I mean, nobody batted an eye at it then. It was,
Good,
and I wasn't the
good.
only one either. It was like, all
Yeah,
right, I got
yeah.
these kids, you got these kids, you got these kids,
Right.
you know.
We talk about we need to
Um,
get back to having a community, and then someone like you will do something like that, which is a very community like, oh, we're okay. You got those kids, good, because you're going that way. I got, and then someone will shake their fist. It's like, bro, that's community. That's people taking care of people. Like, what? How can you get mad at this, dude? Okay, well, good. I love that. I
yeah,
love that. You were there for a year.
yeah, just a year. And at that time, so this is where Central Illinois comes into the mix. So
Okay,
my
I was wondering how I
now
was going to weave that in there to remind you if you needed it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good, good, good.
Yeah, my now wife was in grad school at U of I
Oh,
in
nice.
Champaign. So we met at Saginaw Valley, and then um, she ended up going to grad school at University of Illinois. And so when I was applying for jobs, I was applying for jobs in Michigan and in Illinois, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Champaign's far enough east that I even applied for some jobs in like Western Indiana because I thought, well, if I can get that, that's only an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
Where well, I went from 6 hours away in Bay City to
Right.
Champaign. I cut that distance in half when I took the job in Benton Harbor, and so now we were only 3 hours away.
Nice.
And
Keep cutting
then
it down.
Yep. And so then while I was in Benton Harbor, I was still like trying to get down to Central Illinois.
Mhm.
And so I was still applying for jobs down there. And then I was visiting her over my spring break. I was down in Champaign over my spring break, and I got a phone call from principal at Monticello High School.
Yeah.
Um, yep,
The
and
sages.
asked if the Sages, that's right, and asked if I would be able to come for an interview for an open English position that they had, and I
Ah,
said, "That's actually great. I'm in Champaign
right.
right now." And they're like, "Can you come tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can come tomorrow." And then I
That's
hung up the phone
awesome.
and I was like, "Shit, my suit is in Benton Harbor." So so I was like, "Oh, this is great. I'm already here." And then I was like, "Oh, son of a bitch." So I drove back to Benton Harbor and I got my suit and I drove back to Champaign and I went to the interview the
Dude.
next day and it went really well. And the principal wanted me to come back for a second interview and he said and he said, "And I know you only got one suit with you here, so don't worry, you can wear the same thing. I won't tell anybody." So uh
You're
so
like, I
I
barely got that one, bro.
but that's right, yeah, and my mom bought it for me because she knew I was going to need a suit to go to these job interviews. Um so anyway, I went and the interview went well and I mean they pretty much felt like they wanted to hire me based on that interview, which was great. And so he had me come back the second day, and it was really wasn't even a second interview. Is I got to meet this. I met the superintendent, and we kind of walked the campus of the high school a little bit, and then I got that job. So
Wow. You
I
were at
took yeah. So
Monticello.
for 4 years, yep, I was there.
Dude. That's
Uh,
crazy. That's a stone's throw away, man. Holy cow.
I know. So we were living in Champaign.
Ah,
We lived 611 West Church Street, right next to what's the big park there in the middle of town? Why can't I think of it?
yeah. I
Right
know
next
where
to
you're
right
at.
next to downtown.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Right
yeah. I
next to
know where you're at.
downtown. There's a big park in the middle of the
Yep.
city.
Yeah, I know where you're at.
And
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna think of it this afternoon while I'm mowing the lawn. Uh, Anyway, and driving out to Monticello, which was a 25 minute
Right.
minute drive or so, and teaching English there, and I coached track there for 4 years with
What
Cully Welter.
what years were you there?
That would have been 2012, 13, 14, 15, yeah, 2012 through 2015 I was there.
Did you have? I think he went to Monticello. It would have been around then. Did you have a like a half miler named Scott Phelps? Does that name ring a bell?
Phelps. No, I didn't. I didn't.
I
But that
thought
name does sound familiar.
I
So that
thought
might have been,
he might have graduated in
that
12
would,
too, but I can't remember around
yeah,
there because
it
so
could have been.
he walked on at U of I,
And
but
then,
we actually hired him here. He worked for us for man 5 6 years before he followed his girlfriend to Indy for a job. But I'm pretty
yeah.
sure he was a Monticello kid. I think about that.
Well, in that
Hmm.
first year too, like it kind of like the progression was kind of like how it was for me at Western, where that first year I was volunteering, um, and I think
Oh yeah, I
I
forgot to
was there
ask.
most.
When you got to Monticello, what did you do? How did you? Yeah, yeah. Your first question is, who's the
Found
track
out who
coach?
the
Yeah, yeah,
track
yeah,
coach
yeah.
was.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, and it was Cully Walter,
Okay.
uh, and he's a Hall of Fame football coach.
Wait, wait, wait. Kelly Welter. Kelly Welter. Is he the quarter miler from U of I? Oh
That
God,
sounds right.
I'm
Yeah,
getting all these people mixed.
yeah.
Did he have a daughter
No, it
that
is.
pole vaulted?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Aaliyah. Yep. And
So
I coached her. Yeah,
yeah, our former HR
yeah.
director. Go ahead, go ahead,
Cully
go ahead.
was from Cully graduated from Muhammad.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. That's where I
Yep.
live,
And then
Muhammad.
ended up
Hmm.
okay, and then ended up running at U of I, and then and he's still I still talk to him once in a while. Last I knew, he's still the football coach and the track coach at
Yeah.
Monticello, and
Yep.
like I said, he's a Hall of Fame football coach.
Here is
And I
behind
learned
this.
a ton working with him.
Here's some behind the scenes. Uh, People don't think about, or I don't know if you think about it, you don't need to think about this, I guess, about the podcast. So I reached out to him to be on the podcast because our now former VP of HR was like, "Hey, do you know this guy at Monticello?" And she's telling me about him, and he's like, "Oh, and his daughter's really good pole vault. I think she went to Louisville, if I remember correctly."
Yep, that's
And
right.
and I was like, and so I dug in. I was like, "Who is this guy?" And then I dug in and found out that he was like a walk on at U of I, and his senior year or junior year, I'm sure I'm getting the story mixed up, was a Big Ten champion in the 4x4 instead. And I was like, oh my God. And he was from Muhammad, where I live. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's cool. I reached out to him. I was like, man, you should be on the podcast. Like, I'd love to have you on the podcast. And never reached back out to me. Now, he might not even
That's
got my
not.
email. I don't think he ignored
He
me.
might
He just
not.
probably didn't give me an email. But I do remember this guy. That's
I think
so
he was there
cool.
like I think he was there around like the Gary Winkler era,
Yes.
right? At U
That's
of
what I
I,
remember.
and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. He's got a great story. Yeah. It's really cool.
yeah. He's awesome. If you ever get a chance to pin him down, I mean,
I
he'll be a
know. I
fun
know.
person to talk to.
He's someone that if I really just got off my butt, I could just go drive over there one day, be like, "Look, man, we need you
Yeah,
now."
show up at
Now,
practice.
now I'm going to show up and be like, "Hey, Tyler says you need to
Yeah,
be on the show."
yeah. So
Okay.
I coached his son the one year I coached
Oh
freshman
wow.
basketball. I coached
Yeah.
his
Oh,
son,
that was them. Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and then he also was running track, and then his daughter, yeah, Aaliyah was a really good pole vaulter
Yeah.
and ended up going to Louisville, but she was also a hurdler. And so I
Nice.
coached her in the hurdles while I was there at Monticello. She was a
That's
46
cool.
second 300 hurdler in addition
Yeah.
to being like a 13 and a half foot
Yeah.
pole
Really good
vaulter.
vaulter. Yeah, yeah.
Um, and and ran on our relays and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
I was coaching there.
where are you? You did 4 years at Monticello. Where during this time at Monticello, where are you? Where does coaching education sit for you at this point? And I like to think of coaching education in kind of two buckets: formal and informal. Both are important. Formal is our certificate based type stuff. So USATF level ones, level twos, USTF CCCA, Altus, things like that. Those are all well and good. I was a big coaching education guy, so I got all that kind of stuff. And then informal, just as important a lot of times, is peer to peer. I called
Yeah.
up Gary Winkler one day and was like, "Coach, I'm in the neighborhood. Help me out here." Where are you at during up to this point to Monticello in coaching education?
I don't have any certifications. So I don't know. Most of my education, I guess, is of the informal
Hmm.
variety.
Hmm.
Um, I that being said, so the whole time I was in Michigan, we the the coaching staffs that I work for were really big on attending the state clinic every year.
One of the best ones. Yeah.
And yeah, so I'd always loved going to the clinic and learning from, people talking at the clinics, and then
Hmm.
also like, you get a chance to pick the brains of other coaches who are attending those
Hmm.
clinics as
Hmm.
well, right? So a lot of that, and then in Illinois, kind of same thing. The clinic I
Another
think
great
was
one.
at Oak
Hmm.
Park High School. I
Hmm.
want to say, is
Hmm.
it still there?
No, it's moved somewhere now. Our team goes to that, but I used to go when it was in Oak Park. Hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, and then, but a lot of what I learned in Illinois was just from being around Cully,
Mm.
because you know, he he's a very detail oriented, very methodical, kind of guy, which makes sense why he's had so much success, obviously with
Hmm.
football, especially, and but I wasn't familiar with terms like max velocity or like speed endurance. So
Hmm.
like I thought, I and I Mike did a like basically
Hmm.
Western, they've done a great job. They've had a very healthy program for a very long time. But I was young, and when I thought I knew everything, and I just was talking about this recently, right? Like when you're there's like, what is that, the Dunning-Kruger effect? Is that thing where like you just learn a little bit and you feel like you know a lot, and
Yeah,
then
you
you learn
think
more and
you're
you
an
realize you
expert
don't know
on.
anything?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
think. Yeah, something along that line.
I,
I don't think that
we'll
second
call
part happens though. I think in Dunning-Kruger you don't
it.
get to the point where you're like, oh crap, I don't know anything. I think you think you know everything. Yeah, that's the problem.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I definitely thought like I had it all figured out when I
Hmm.
was, 20, 22, 23 years old. And then now I feel like I don't know. I feel like there's so much more that I need to learn still. But
Hmm.
so that was my first exposure to some of those training terminologies, and like the thematic groupings of like
Hmm.
workouts, and like having like specific like split times for kids to hit on specific
Hmm.
reps within the workout, and those were based on their 200 PR or their 400
Hmm.
PR or whatever. And we had a long sprint group and a short sprint group and all.
Hmm.
So I learned a lot just from being around him, and also like, so I never got a chance to coach with Jeff Butler, but Jeff Butler was the coach before he had retired. Uh, and then along with Cully, and just the culture of the program was so
Hmm.
strong, of like the kids were super coachable. They understood like, if I'm choosing to do this, right? Because you're choosing to be part of the sport. If I'm choosing to do the sport, I'm
Hmm.
going to do it to the best of my ability. And I think that really started with the expectation and the standard that they set of like, this is
Right.
how we do things here, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, I learned so much from being around him, and I just appreciate him so much. And we had a really fun group when I was down there. The last year I was down there in 2015, so I had moved from like, okay, I'm just kind of helping out, to now I'm like officially an assistant on the payroll. And then my last year that I was down there, I was the girls head coach, which is a bit of a misnomer because we were such a small school that everybody was together anyway,
Right.
right? In Illinois, the meets are separate for the
Hmm.
most part. Is that still
Hmm.
true?
As far
Is
as
that
I
still true?
know, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So in Michigan, they're not. Every meet we go to in Michigan is boys and girls are there. State
Right.
meet, boys and girls are there. But in Illinois, that it was separate. But at the same time, it wasn't, because as far as the day to day in practice, it was like, okay, we only have 60, 70 kids in
Right.
total. We only have this many coaches. Oh, some things about hurdling. Okay, cool. You work with all the hurdlers, boys and girls.
Right.
So even though I was the girls' head coach, I was working with all the hurdlers down there, and some of the sprint relays and stuff like that. But
Right.
we had a great, I mean, Monticello had always been 1A, which is the smallest division in
Hmm.
Illinois. And that year, their enrollment went just high enough that they moved up to 2A. Um, so now we're running against the Champagnes and the
Hmm.
Bloomingtons and Springfields and like those schools. And we actually the girls won the sectional meet in a school of 500, competing against
Wow.
schools of up to 1,000 or 1,200, whatever the cutoff was. Um, And we had Aaliyah Welter was part of that group. She ended up going to Louisville. We had another girl named Lizzie Rupke who ended up running at Butler. We had another girl named Olivia Ness who was a heck of a hurdler. I know she ran in college. I can't remember where now, but I mean, we were just loaded with talent, and kind of managed to put it all together and have a great year.
That's awesome. Um, yeah, you got me thinking about the Illinois meets because when I coached high school in Illinois, it was at a boys' school, so I didn't care if there were
Okay.
girls at a meet or not. And I know our state meets are separate, which means our regionals or whatever we call it are separate. My kids did middle school track. We definitely had boys and girls there for that. So now I don't know, like if I go to a regular meet, is it all boys, all girls? I don't know because they got to split somewhere if they do regionals and states separately. Like somewhere it has to definitely split at the very least. So yeah, it makes me wonder.
It felt like I was doing like, it felt like I was at a track meet every day, just about,
Hmm.
because like I would be like, okay, well, the boys have a meet this day, so we're going to practice. The girls are going to practice. And then as soon as I'm done with practice, I'm going to zip over to wherever the meet
Right.
is.
Right.
And then like that weekend of, with the state meets being separate, it was like, all right, I'm going to be at the
Mm.
sectional meet
Hmm.
I'm going to be at the state meet for the boys, and then I'm going to go to the sectional meet for the girls in the afternoon. And like,
Right.
it was crazy.
Yeah. I wonder why they do that. That's
I
interesting,
don't know.
actually.
And there are things about it, like not so much the splitting, but I love the 2 day state meet in Illinois. I
Hmm.
love the fact that you get to see all three divisions at in one location in Illinois, because in Michigan, there's four divisions, plus the Upper Peninsula has its own separate like
Right.
state finals,
Right.
and they're all at separate locations. So we're
Right.
Division One. We get to see all the best kids in Division One, but a lot of times there's really outstanding kids in Division Two and Three and
Hmm.
Four who you never get a chance to see. Whereas, I remember being at the state meet in Illinois, and for whatever reason, freaking Salt Fork High School had, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
some reason,
Yep.
Salt Fork High School
Yep.
had an unreal program, and there's like, I think there's 10 kids at the school, and they're all at the track on the track team. Like, I don't, you know, it, but that was fun. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of things they do a good job of down there.
A couple of years ago, I think it was 24, uh, I set out and interviewed a high school coach from every state to talk about their state outdoor meet, like how they qualify and all the uniquenesses, like Illinois having a split, Michigan having them in four different locations, things like that. Because that one always, they're always, I mean, there's always reasons for everything, but the Michigan one was always like, how do you find enough officials? Because it's also there's college meets still going on that weekend. Like that, I just can't imagine how many officials you need for things like that. But I was blown away by how different every state is. Like I thought there would be, again, I'm so naive. I was like, oh, there'll be like, over half will all do it kind of the same way. I think in fact, I did 51 because we had Washington, D.C. in there. I think all 51 were radically different. What events they
Yeah.
do, how they score it. Did you know this is always my favorite one? Uh, New York, they don't score their state meet.
So it's just an individual, like you get a medal if you win type thing, if you
Isn't
win your
that
event type thing.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's
I
wild.
thought
So it's
when
all individual then, right? So they don't crown a state champion school? Huh.
when I had the guy,
I
I
don't
wish I
like
could.
it. I don't like
Same,
that.
same, same, same. When I had the guy on, because I was doing 50 of these, right? Plus the normal interviews like this. So I can't fact check people. So literally it was like, look, man, if you want to lie to me, people are going to call
Yeah.
you out, not me.
Just fucking
So
cook
this,
something up for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. So this guy is an awesome guy. I'm shameful that I can't remember his name. And he's telling me this, and he goes, because I said, because there's, I think they call them sections, and I was like, so there's four. You call them sections, but four state championship teams. And he's like, oh, no, 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 we don't have a state championship. I was like, okay, I know you call them sections, that's fine, but so you have four teams that win. He goes, no, no, we don't keep and I was like, hold on a minute, man. I was like,
So it's
look,
only an individual sport then,
I was like,
in for all intents and purposes, right?
you are either trolling me, which I love a good joke. That's cool. Let's just get the record straight. But that's cool. I'm fun. I'm having fun, fun to someone who's trolling me. I was like, or this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And it's true. They do not. And so I asked him, I was like, so why? Why would you have them there? Why don't you just keep it, give the first place 10 points, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, it's such a big state. It's hard to get everybody to the state meet. And I'm like, brother, Texas does it. Like you ain't as big as Texas. I know New
Yeah.
York's big
California
landmass,
does
but
it.
that's what I'm saying. I was like, it just blew my mind that they do not keep a team score. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy.
Crazy. Like I still can't like it's hard for me to even say because it's like it's the unbelievable that it's even true that and I'm still saying it's I can't
I'm
believe
gonna
it.
think about this for the rest of the day.
I know, right?
It's upsetting me.
I urge people if you're a track nerd, go back. There's 51. They're not all 2 hours. In fact, they're all 15 to 30 minutes because we ran them 51 days in a row. Go back and listen to them. You'll be blown away how Alaska does it, how Massachusetts does it, Texas. You think all these different like fun facts came out. So Texas, as you might know, is famous air quotes there for doubling up the relay points, right? So instead of 10 points, you
Yeah.
get 20, right? And there's big controversies around that. They're not the only state. Oklahoma does it as well. That was a fun little
Huh.
fact. No one else, just those two. Uh, Iowa. So in Michigan, how many relay races do you have at state? Yeah, the 4x1 and 4x4 for sure, because those are table stakes. Do you have any other relays at the state meet?
4x8 and 4x2.
Yeah, okay. So like Illinois, so we have four, right?
Yep. Yep.
Iowa has seven relays at their state
So they
championship.
do they have an SMR?
If I remember correctly, they have an SMR, DMR, that'd be six, and then the best event in the world, which should be an NCAA event and every other event, shuttle hurdle
Shuttle
relay.
hurdles.
Yeah, you knew it, baby.
I
Yeah, yeah.
knew
So you
the
knew,
shuttle
yeah, yeah,
hurdle.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So Iowa famous for having the shuttle hurdle relay, but there's another state that has a shuttle hurdle relay for their outdoor state meet. And of all the other states you could think of, you would never guess it's West Virginia. They have a shuttle. I know, bro. I had so much fun getting to know all these little intricacies. Some state meets have a combined event for their state meet. A
Hmm.
lot more than I thought had it as a post state meet event that doesn't count for the state meet. You'll call it an unofficial state meet.
Okay.
One of the schools. We'll get back to you in a second, Tyler. One of the states
That's all right. This is fun.
up in the New England area, and I can't remember if it's like Vermont or Maine, one of those states up there, very small state, right? They host a post-state meet decathlon. And I was like, oh, that's very cool. And some other states had done that. And they get something like 100 plus kids to do it. I was like, man, that's really cool. I was like, so you get 100, like, so how many of those are boys doing the decathlon and how many of that is girls doing the heptathlon? And I think it was a woman coach. She goes, no, 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 no. We have 100 plus athletes, boys and girls, that do the decathlon. The girls do the decathlon. And I was like,
Oh
wait,
wow.
I was like, I'm okay. If I wasn't on board before, I sure am now. This crap about women can't do the decathlon. I got a bunch of high schoolers up in
Yeah.
Maine, and I got a ton of them, by the way, 100 plus that are doing the decathlon. Give me a break. It's time to move the
Yeah.
women to the decathlon. So it was
For
fascinating, man.
sure.
So I encourage anybody to go out and listen because it was amazing. It
Do you
was
remember
something
who you
new.
talked to from Michigan?
No, I remembered Illinois, Jaron down in southwest, down by like St. Louis area. Who was Michigan? I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. Oh
I
man.
remember when you had put that post out on
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I remembered I wondered if it was Jeremy Annan. I wonder if it was
No,
Jeremy
that's
Annan.
it. That's it. Annan. Annan. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's it.
Yeah, so I coached with him as well when I
Oh,
made my way
nice.
back to Michigan. So
Yeah, nice, nice.
um,
Okay,
small. This world, the track world is big, but it's small, right?
it really is, and because of social media, in my opinion,
Yeah,
I mean, we can go to clinics, but typically clinics, and you've been to some, when you mentioned Michigan and Illinois, those are, I go to clinics around the country. I'd put those two in the top five of not only participation, like how many coaches are being there, but the quality of their speakers and importance that they put into it. They do a really, really good job there. Shout out to
I need to
Wisconsin,
go
does
to
a good job.
Wisconsin. I was
I,
gonna say I've heard
yeah.
Wisconsin is really
Oh,
good.
the absolute that in Ohio, another top tier. Minnesota, I okay, Michigan boy, I get it. I forgot you don't mention that state or school. Minnesota is another one that does a great job. TTFCA down in Texas, they do a great job. There's some great clinics around there, but even those are typically pretty regionalized, right? Like if you go to the
Yeah,
Texas clinic, it's going to be 99% Texas coaches. Although shout out to Coach Cage from Westlake in Georgia. He comes over to freaking Texas for that clinic. That says a lot. But social media, I can talk to Tyler in Michigan 1 second, turn around, talk to JT in California the next second, boom, down to Danny in Texas. I mean, it's just, I got the whole country of every coach that I get
Hmm.
to pick their mind. That's why, I probably, before social media, I probably would have told you on coaching education that if you're not doing what I call the formal side, if you're not going to USATF, USTFCA, you're probably doing a disservice. But now with the freedom of open information and the willingness to share that information, the informal, that's why I put it like now, it's like, oh, it's just as important. If you could sit down with a Danny McCrae down at APTX in Texas and pick his brain, you would learn a ton. And you're not going to get a certificate after that conversation, but you're going to
Right.
be a better coach because of that conversation. One of the great memories I had, you mentioned about going to clinics. I went to, when I coached high school in Chicago, the first year, went down to Bloomington, Indiana. Indiana University held a track coach clinic, and Marshall Goss was teaching the hurdles. And I remember being blown away. Like that was the first time I was pretty infant into my coaching career, but my athlete career, they never did this to me either. It was the first time I ever heard about taking hurdles down and taking hurdles in for your hurdlers, no matter what, whether they're 13 flat or
Hmm.
18 flat, like that's how you should be training. And I was just, I mean, it was literally like the proverbial clouds moving away from the eyes, like, oh, I can see, like this makes
And somehow there's
sense,
still people that don't know that.
bro. I know. I I was
Well, yeah, I don't
I
know,
was
man.
when I first got to Gill, this we used to have this local club, the Illini Heat, and great family.
Hmm.
I ended up coaching her daughter, Laura Morris, for a little bit, and they asked me to help coach. And so, first of all, God bless club coaches. I can't work with 8, 9, 10-year. I barely could work with college kids. I don't know how people do this with the kids, but I'm working with this little 12-year-old boy or something like that. And he's got some talent. And I've got the hurdles. Like he's 12, he's real small. In fact, he might have been 10. I have not only the hurdles all the way down, I have them tipped over. So they're like probably 18 inches
Yeah.
high. I mean, they're real. And his dad was sitting on the fence, just watching. And it's the kids going over getting reps. We're three-step, if you ain't three-stepping in practice, you ain't three-stepping at meets, in my opinion. So this goes on, and then the dad looks at me and goes, "You ever gonna move those hurdles up to where they're supposed to be?" And luckily, egotistically, I thought this. Luckily, I did not say it, but I was sitting there thinking, "Bro, do you even know who I am? Like, you have no clue who I've coached. Like,
Yeah.
you step off, Dad." Luckily, I just said, I
Yeah.
literally just turned to him and was like, "Nah," just kept going. I
Well,
was like, "I ain't doing this."
it is one of those things like because the kids ask, right? Like, and it does sort of intuitively make sense, right? Like, well, they're 39 inches in the meet, so I need to practice 39 inches, or they're this
Right,
far apart in the meet, so I need to practice this distance. And it's
right.
like I actually can't fault your logic,
No,
but
no, no, you can, Tyler, because we also have 7-on-7, because you have 7-on-7 football and no one bats an eye.
well,
Uh,
you're not wrong.
we play 3-on-3 in basketball. That is not the game. It is 5-on-5. It's not 7-on-7. It's 11-on-11. So we do all of those modifications for other sports. And I'm sure there's something
Sure.
in baseball. I don't know baseball well enough, but I'm sure there's something in baseball where they do that. But in track, which is the purest human performance sport there is, that's where we're going to get all up in arms about the rules and like, look, there's blue tick marks on the track. That's where the hurdle's supposed to go. It's like, yeah, that's just for the meets, brother. We
Hmm.
ain't at a meet. This is practice. So,
Hmm.
uh, preaching to the choir because I know you do all those things.
For
That
sure.
actually was my test, Tyler, because I was waiting for you to say, well, yeah, Mike, you got to put him at 39 and at the blue. And I was like, oh, Tyler, well, you still have so much to learn.
I do still have so much to learn,
That's
but that
true.
one is a box that I've checked. Yeah.
Good, 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 good. That literally today that might be the bottom tier box that you need to check for coaching hurdlers. Okay, Monticello for 4 years. I love that you were just literally like right there from here in our factory. Did you ever get a chance to come over to the factory?
Mm-mm. Nope.
Oh man, no, I hate that. It's cool. It's like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for track coaches, man. You
If I ever get back down that way, I'll give you a call
do
because
please.
I have like had occasion over the last like 10
Mm-hmm.
plus years to
Mm-hmm.
make it back down there a couple times. In fact, my sister lived in Urbana for a little while,
Oh
like
yeah.
after. So yeah, I'll give you a call
If
for
you
sure if I
ever
make it
down
down there.
anybody, if you're a track coach and you're ever in the Champaign area, reach out. You won't regret. It's actually really phenomenal. It's really neat. Okay, how do you? So you're at Monticello, 4 years, I think you said. How do you get
Yeah.
back up to the homeland to Michigan?
Yeah, so I was pretty homesick, and you know, I think I was definitely the driving force behind like wanting to move back to Michigan. But when my wife was finishing up her PhD at U of I, we were
Did
kind of looking
did you say
at,
PhD?
at yes.
Oh wow, dude, that's a level of education I can't even think about. That's crazy. Okay, keep going. Sorry, I'm always impressed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's awesome. So then we moved to Michigan and we moved to the we moved to Grand Rapids,
Hmm.
Michigan. Um, and I was coaching. I took a job teaching at Coopersville High School, which is kind of like 25 minutes west of Grand Rapids. It's kind of halfway between Grand Rapids and the Lakeshore.
Hmm.
And so I was there for a couple years, which is where I met Jeremy Annan, who you've had the chance
Hmm.
to talk to. And
Hmm.
so I was an assistant there. He was also an English teacher. I was teaching English there. I was an assistant. I was working with hurdlers and with sprint relays there. And it just kind of turned out that that particular school district and that particular community wasn't really a great fit for me. And so I decided that that wasn't someplace that I saw myself wanting to be long
Hmm.
term, which was a bummer because, you know, we moved to Grand Rapids and I thought this is going to be where we kind of like
Hmm.
settle down. But like, you know, things just, life happens and things just don't always work out the way we plan. So after 2 years there, um, is when I started looking for a teaching job elsewhere, and that's how I landed in Kalamazoo. So I was but not to, you know, we moved to Grand Rapids thinking this is going to be it. So when I took the job in Kalamazoo, we didn't hurry up and move to Kalamazoo. We waited. So
Hmm.
the first 2 years that I was teaching at Kalamazoo Central, I was still living in Grand Rapids, which is about a 45-minute or so commute, um, depending on traffic. So I started teaching at Kalamazoo Central and kind of same thing. Who's the track coach? Where do I find him? What do I do? And I was the first year or two while I was still living in Grand Rapids, I was helping out as much as I could, but not every day. Um, and then you know, so that's I guess that would have been the 2017 18, 2018 19, and then so I guess that would have been 2 years. I don't
Hmm.
know. Anyway, then COVID happens, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we get the 2020 season. The 2020 season gets canceled. And when we came back after COVID, the guy that had been coaching at Kalamazoo Central for a while, a guy named Hal Bates, um, older guy, and I think at the time his wife was maybe going through some health stuff, and he was pretty nervous about like all the COVID stuff, so he
Sure.
decided to just step away from coaching um, right before the 2021 season, like a week before the 2021 season began. And you know, we were still under all kinds of restrictions. Like we hadn't had any preseason or off-season workouts or anything like that. And
Right.
now it's like, oh, okay, yes, we're gonna have a season because it's an outdoor sport. It starts in a week, and also we need a coach. So I interviewed just like this over Zoom with my principal
Right.
and athletic director, and I got the head coaching job right before the 2021 season started. And you know, every state handled it differently, but that was like we were doing school on the computer,
Right.
Google Meet, not Zoom. And then I was driving over to the school, and you know, we were having to do like weekly, we were having to do the COVID tests with the kids, and every day I was having to ask those like screener questions of like, okay, do you feel this way? Do you feel that way? And so that season is still sort of surreal to me. And in some ways I feel like it doesn't even count. But um, you know, so that's kind of how I landed as the head coach in
Wow.
Kalamazoo Central. Was I got the job in 2021. So from, you know, a volunteer
Yeah.
18-year-old kid in Bay
Yeah.
City to, you know, fast forward now, I've been everywhere I've gone. I've coached track in some capacity since I was 18 years old, and I just turned
Wow.
40 this past track season, and
Dude.
so 22 years in, and hopefully another 22 to go.
Well, pick your brain here a little bit, Tyler. First of all, that's an amazing journey, and one we have not had in nearly 400 interviews. So I love that. It's amazing to me. You mentioned, so first of all, you're right. I can't. You just gave me kind of a thought about our high school, and I know our college coaches too, but our high school coaches and teachers really went through this. You guys and gals went through COVID and had to do stuff like that, and never gave up. Continued trying to figure out how can you pour into young people, while also trying to teach English. And oh, by the way, you're married and you're trying to run a household, and you probably have other charities and churches and passions and hobby. Like, man, it's easy to forget now that it's 2026, but boy, we went through some stuff, and you guys coaches came out on top, and our kids are better for it. I know it was a tough situation, uh, and and
It
it changed
was,
us.
yeah.
It changed us, but it could have changed us even more for the negative. And so I think you kind of given that example of what you went through. That's amazing. Okay.
Well, and I think that that really gave me the opportunity to start, like, that was when I got really active on social media because I was just craving, like,
Mm,
track stuff and connection.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
so, like, I would get on, I would do a class over Zoom, and then get on a Zoom call or a Google Meet or whatever with
Mm-hmm.
JTAers who's
Mm-hmm.
also sitting in his classroom, and we're
Mm-hmm.
talking hurdles for a half hour between classes. Like, and so in some ways, I don't know if I'm almost certain I wouldn't have made some of the connections that I've made
Oh,
if
sure.
not for the isolation,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of a weird,
How does that
yeah,
but it does. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's a good point. I wish, and I'm glad we were back to in person for a lot of things and a lot of reasons.
yeah,
But like that coaches collab and those 30-minute call them impromptu Zooms with JTs and things like that. I wish we could get back more because I just think communication is really important. Okay, what I want to ask you, what I want to pick your brain is, Tyler. So you started that in 2021, and in 2024 you win the state title. Now there's a lot of coaches listening right now that really want to win a state title, and whether they feel like they're one step away or they're 100 steps away, or maybe someone starting a new program, there's first year in their high school program. The kind of broad question is, so how did you do it? How did you win a state title? What are some of to put you on the spot, what are three things that you had to do to go from, and you might have been the state champion before you got there. I have no idea. I don't want to paint this picture of like, oh, you guys had one kid on the team and 4 years later you're the state champion. Like, you had some semblance of a team there, but you win a state title. That's amazing. What were some of the things, what are somebody that's listening right now, what are some of the things that they should consider, in your opinion, to help foster the possibility of winning a state title? Because you're not going to guarantee it by listening to you, but here's some things that maybe put you ahead of the game.
yeah. Well, when I was assisting, I was a teacher in the building, and one of the things that I noticed was that we just didn't have a lot of kids coming out for track. And I love the guys that were coaching there before, and some of them stayed on as assistants, and Coach Bates did actually got back into coaching at another school across the town. So, like, I love all those guys, but they were older guys. They weren't teachers in the building, and we weren't getting a lot of kids to come out for track. And we're a school of about 1,700 kids. And for us to only have boys and girls combined, to only have 65 or so kids on the track team at a school of that size, I always felt like that was a problem. Like, especially because, I went to football games, and I went to basketball games, I went to volleyball games, and I could see that there were athletes, there were athletes in our school. And Tony Holler and I have talked about this before, and we both said the same thing, which is like every school has a good track team. It's just a question of whether or not they're on the track team. Um, and I very much felt like that was the case at
That's a
Kalamazoo Central. Like, we
good
have
point.
very good athletes at Kalamazoo Central, but they weren't coming out for track. And I think some of it was the lack of like, not really knowing who the coaches were because they weren't teachers in the building. And
Yeah.
I think some of it too was, it was a very kind of old school, there, 400 repeats, like that kind of stuff, where it's like, if I'm a sprint type athlete, and this all kind of, this is a very long answer to a very, you asked me for three things, but it all kind of jived for me, or synced up on the timeline with me for when I met Tony holler and went down the feed the cats rabbit hole, because I'm looking at cats in my building who are not coming out for track. So I
Mm.
met Tony in 19 at the Michigan Clinic. And we ended up after his talk, I was like, it blew my mind. And after his talk, we ended up sitting at the hotel bar and having a couple beers, and I just like picking his brain for the longest time, and we
Mm.
still talk. Um, but I was like, man, this is I think what needs to happen at Kalamazoo
Mm.
Central. So I went all in on kind of like that feed the cats mindset. I went all in on learning as much as I could about speed development first and
Mm.
foremost, and I was like Tony talks about in the beginning of his like sort of journey of feed the cats. I was all in on like I need to just figure out how to attract the best athletes to the program, because right
Mm.
now the best athletes in our school are not on the track team,
Right.
right? So we went from 65 kids in that COVID year where we were doing all the testing to over 100 the next year, and then 130, and then this past season we started the season with 200 athletes, and this is boys and girls combined, but
And
we started the season with 200 athletes.
you said roughly 1,700 students?
Right. Yeah.
Dude, that means if I'm walking your hallway, roughly one out
10%
of
or more.
every 10 kid I see is
Yeah.
on the track and field team. I love that. That is awesome.
Yeah, so that I mean, so those are the things. The first couple things was
Hmm.
number one, I need to get the best athletes in the school out for the track team, period. Um, Number two was while they're there, I need to make it worth their while, right? So they need to see that they're getting faster. So I started doing a lot of the stuff that Tony preaches. I
Hmm.
started doing, we call it speed club, but basically like off-season speed training in
Hmm.
the hallways because we don't have an indoor facility. And timing 40s and timing 10-meter flies and record, rank, and publish and putting that, and it started to become like the conversations in the hallways and in other
Mm.
classes started to be about sprinting and times and things like that. So there was really a
Not
kind of
just
cultural
did you see
shift.
Joey catch the touchdown this past weekend? It's like, oh yeah, hey, I'm in the 20 mile per hour club. Man, I'm really striving for the 21.
And
Yeah,
we did the
that's
and we did
changing
the
culture.
wristbands, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
and we did the
yeah.
wristbands and all the stuff, and like, and so and then teachers would be asking me like, hey, so and so's got this wristband on, and he was telling me about it. What's that all about? So like, it was very much like I need to first figure out how to get kids excited about track and field, and about sprinting, because that's where, like, I was convinced, and I'm still convinced, right? In Michigan, there's 17 events in track. The vast majority of them are benefited by being fast,
Right, right.
right? Just
Yep,
and
yep.
so I was like, we're gonna be a sprint program. Now,
That's a great
at the
point.
same time, our cross country coaches have done a hell of a job. Our and we're not a prototypical like cross country school. Like we're kind of we're an urban school,
Mm.
or like, and as much as you say what you will, or we wish it wasn't this way, but like it sure feels like a lot of times when you go to the cross country meet, it's like it's a whole lot of like suburban
Hmm.
like a whole lot of suburban white schools
Hmm.
dominating the thing. And so we're not a prototypical cross country school, but our cross country coaches have done a hell of a job too to develop that program that kids want to be a part of. And so um, our cross country team has been top four, and our boys cross country team has been top four in the state the last like 3 years.
Wow.
So that has been definitely like I was all in on like we got to get the fastest and most explosive kids out for the team. Also, you guys are doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. And one of the cross country coaches is an assistant on the track team, so that carries over. But I think the biggest things as far as like getting there were attracting the right kids to the program, um, growing the program because it is a numbers game. Dave Emia of East Kentwood. Did you read Dave's book?
I did. He sent it to me. Yeah, I'm good friends with Dave. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave Emia
Great job.
is dude, he's the best. And I consider him, even though like we only interact maybe a handful of times a year, I consider him a mentor too, because I sort of East Kentwood is the gold standard in the state of
Sure.
Michigan as far as track and field is concerned. And I always wanted to be like Dave when I grow up, and I still want to be like Dave when I grow up. But he said to me one time, if you get 100 kids out for track, or if you get 10 kids out for track, one of them might be good, right? If you get 100 kids out for track, 10 of them might be good, one of them might be great.
Right.
And you can do a lot of damage with 10 good kids and one great kid.
Yeah.
And that really stuck with me. And he always talked about trying to have 10% of the student body out for
Yeah.
track. So I had
That,
that number
yeah.
in my mind of like, I
Yep.
want to get 10% of our
Yep.
population out for track.
Yep.
And some of them will be good. And if we're lucky, one of them will be great.
Yep.
And if we have that and we can put the pieces together at the right place at the right time, we can do really well. So um, in 2024, the year that we won the state championship, um, that was that was what happened, and we had 150 or so kids out for the team, which was the most we had ever had at that point. We had a very talented we had a very talented sprinter named Jeremy Dixon, who was a state champion in the 100 and runner up in the 200. We also had a very talented distance runner named Jasper Kane, who he was second in the mile and third in the 2 mile, or it might have been vice versa on that. I can't remember exactly, but like nine flat guy in the two, and I think like 409 in the 16. Um, and then we had another like a whole supporting cast of guys that were pretty darn good. So we got on the podium a bunch of times at the state meet, and actually that year um, in 2024, so East Kentwood's in our region,
Mm.
and East Kentwood has won our region every year since 2005 except for 2024. Uh,
Wow.
so we're the only school to be East Kentwood in a regional meet since 2005, and then we went on
Wow.
and won the state championship that year in
Dude.
24. And to you mentioned this earlier, like, oh, did you have one kid, and you want,
Hmm.
and don't get me wrong, sometimes having that one kid puts you over the edge, but um, I'm proud to say that our boys team has finished in the top 10 at the state finals for 5 years in a row.
Wow.
And we were third this year with a group that I actually going into the season, I wasn't sure, like, I don't know how we're gonna, I go through this like this cycle every year of like, the seniors graduate and you go, oh, what are we gonna do without so and so? And then somebody always seems to step up and somebody
Hmm.
always seems to surprise you, and our kids really seem to run well at the right time of
Hmm.
year. And so I'm in that phase right now of like, man, we just graduated all these seniors, what are we gonna do next year? And then somebody will surprise me and we'll have
Right.
another great year. But going into the season I was like, man, we don't have like that, we don't have a standout
Right.
kid. Because I had before those guys that I mentioned, we had a kid named Kyan Mabin who was a tremendous hurtler. He ran 13 mid in the highs and 37 in the 300s, and he ended up running at Eastern Michigan. And then we had Jeremy and Jasper who both ended up going to Michigan State, and like we had guys, and going into the season, um, I was like, man, I don't know, there's nobody that stands out on paper. And then I should mention that we've had a lot of the success with the boys program that shows up on the results,
Hmm.
right? But when I took over, the girls program was in even worse shape than the boys program was in terms of like the number of kids coming out and things
Hmm.
like that. And we haven't had that like that state level success yet with the girls. We've gotten a lot of girls to the state meet. We've gotten a few girls on the podium at the state meet. Um, but we finished second in our conference for 2 years in a row, which our girls were at the bottom of the conference pretty consistently. Like I'm really, really excited about like like I said, the boy stuff shows up like when you go on ANET and it's like, oh,
Right.
top, first place, fifth place, third place, this medal, this podium, this, that, and where some of those things don't show up on ANET for the girls' side, but like the the same principles have really applied to the girls team too. Like I know we have great athletes that are not coming out for the team. Let's get them out, right? I know that we can be competitive in these areas. I know that, and we've had some really good ones. We've had a really good hurdler who just graduated. We've had some really nice sprint relays, and I'm really excited about the young group of girls that we have right now. We have some really nice freshmen and eighth graders that I think are going to surprise some people over the next few years. So it's just been so much fun, man. I think when you and that state championship, by the way, that was Kalamazoo Central hadn't won a state championship in track since 1965.
Holy.
So it was not like I inherited,
Right.
a championship level program, but all it took really was get the kids excited about it.
Yeah.
And Tony talks about that too, right? Kids are good at things they like, and they can become great with at things that they love. And I'm finding more and more that our kids really seem to love track, and even kids that like have thought of themselves as like, I'm a football guy. Uh, Now
Right.
they're running track in college,
Yeah.
or and girls just like, man, they go from playing volleyball all year round to they come out for track, and it turns out that they're better at track than they ever
Right.
were at volleyball,
Yeah.
and we have a girl right now who just graduated who's going to go run at Wayne State next
Nice.
year, and she was always a volleyball kid,
Hmm.
but she just fell in love with track and had a lot of success, and it's so much fun seeing kids just like thrive.
I attribute this quote to Tony. I'm pretty sure he's the one who said it. Uh, Make track the best part of the kid's day. Like, and I tell you what,
Yep.
I'm going to start asking more. I'm going to start putting like an A plus standard. If you have 10% or more, obviously, of your student population on your track, that's always been a big deal to me. Like, it's always like, holy crap, man, 10%. Like that's so I don't know if I picked that up from someone else or just it's a simple number. But you're an A plus standard. If you, I don't care if you win state, win conference, I don't care. If you have 10% or more of kids in the student body on your team, you're doing something right. No one goes to track because they love doing repeat quarters or running fly 30s until they can't feel their leg. No, they don't.
Yeah.
They enjoy the friendship, the camaraderie, the coaching staff, the culture, and someone else told me this might be Tony too, by the way. Uh, Kids are your best recruiters. So if they're having a good time, they're going to convince their Joeys and Tinas and Larrys to come join the team as well. So if you have 10+%, that tells me you're doing a good job of your coaching there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, track has become like the sport to be a part of, right?
That's
And
cool.
it's a lot. Some of this is stuff that from like JT and stuff, but like
Hmm.
you make the gear cool. Like some of it is like, man,
Yeah.
like
Oh, no one does it better
the
than
track
JT, I
team's
think.
got
Yeah,
drip.
yeah. Yeah.
Like I mean, I want that hoodie. I want that. I want to wear that uniform. I want to like, so like,
Yeah.
and it's fun on dual meet days. I'll tell the kids like, all right, everybody wear your windbreaker to school, and it's like you can't look any direction without seeing
That's
kids,
cool.
in their track stuff. So
I love
the
that.
track team has definitely become like a team that kids want to be part of at our school.
Tyler, that's amazing. What a great way to end this interview because that's amazing for you to say that and then think back to this 18-year-old kid volunteering at his old high school a couple of days a week. That's just it's not a complete 180 because it's not like, well, I didn't never want to be a track coach, but it's like what a great journey your coaching career is. And here's what's cool. This is I sit in a very unique seat of being able to hear people's journeys for a living. And you mentioned you turned 40 this past year. Congrats. I turned 50 in a month. So this is what you got to look forward to. Sorry. Uh, but what's amazing to me is it's easy for you to think. You mentioned 22 years and you've done a lot. You won a state title. You know how many coaches have never won a state title? It's easy to start thinking like, oh, I'm probably, I'm on the downhill of my career. We're going to wrap it up here. But here's the cool thing, and you actually mentioned this, so you probably have maybe kind of the same thought process as I do here. um, if we use a 400-meter analogy, you're barely at the 200-meter mark. It's easy to think that we're on the final straightaway and I see the finish line. You're barely at 200. You're 40.
Yeah.
I know you're a teacher. I know your salary. You got to work till 65. You're gonna have to retire. You ain't retiring early. I've yet to hear an English teacher, high school English teacher retire early. you've got almost and maybe more left in your coaching career than you have done so far. And to me, that's super cool because you've accomplished a lot in the first half of that race. Man, what are you going to do in the second half? Not only for your teams, it's easy for us to think about, well, how many more state titles or state champions or all state and all those kind of things. To me, I think about how many more other coaches you're going to produce, former athletes of yours, how many other coaches you're going to pour into, how many 3 years when I have someone on the podcast and they go, you know what? I met this coach named Tyler Germain. They just come off winning the state title and I picked his brain and he really helped me understand about lowering hurdles and moving them in and things like that. And you're going to change other programs because of that. And that's how you create legacy, my friend. And I think you're on a great path to what you're doing in our sport and specifically in our sport in the great state of Michigan for high school.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope you're right. I mean, I feel like because I started so young, at times I feel like a very experienced coach, but also still a very young coach. Like I feel like I have a lot left in the tank, still. So, yeah, I hope you're right. I hope I'm only at that 200 mark, and I still have something left to be able to finish the race, and the bear doesn't jump on my back anytime
Yeah,
soon.
that's right. Yeah, I don't ever think about that aspect when I give that analogy. That's a great point. Tyler, my friend, we could keep talking. We're over time now, and we could keep talking. Again, just so grateful your openness and authenticity, man. You've gone through a great journey, and again, there's so much more ahead of you personally and professionally. And I just found it fascinating. I love the people that poured into you, man. That just that's what interests me is you stand on the shoulders of giants before you, and now your shoulders are broad, and people are gonna start being on your shoulders as well. And I think that's just a really cool aspect of our sport and a really cool aspect of our profession. So, man, so grateful. The most valuable thing you can ever give me is your time. I'm really thankful for your time today.
Thanks, man. You too. Really appreciate it.
Guys and gals, thank you for being here. I'm appreciative of your time too. I always say this is not an easy podcast to listen to. This isn't something you pop in your car and your commute to work and it's over with. This may take a couple of days of trips, but let me tell you, it's worth it. At the very least, it's worth it for me to be able to sit down with these men and women across the country, coaching high school, college, and everything in between, track and field. They truly do make our sport move on. And I'm just so grateful that you would participate in that journey. So thank you so much for being here. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. See you guys.